Okay, today I'm going to be showing you how to. So this is going to be like a series of creating some facial anatomical parts. So I'm going to be starting with the eyes. I'm going to be starting with the eyes. So I have a reference in here to kind of create some eye. So let me start with this first one. This will be the first guy. So first of all, I need to bring in a. Let me kind of replace this. So I'm going to append a cube. Yes, I will append a cube on this. Then I'll just delete this cylinder instead. And I'll do a duplicate for this cube. Okay, let me just delete this duplicate. Before I move on, let me kind of squash this. So I'll go to the gizmo. So the gizmo, I'll just from the top view, I'll just squash this down like so. Extend it out a bit like so. Yeah, something like this should be fine. Okay. Then I can do a duplicate of this now. So let's start creating this eyepiece in here. But before we start, let's just first of all kind of look at the general anatomy of the eye. Let's see, maybe you can use. So I've turned on perspective. The perspective is turned on now. Turning on perspective in here. Let's kind of look at the silhouette of the eye first before moving on. So this is like a clear example of what we need to do. But I'm going to be doing this thing slightly differently, but the anatomical structure remains the same. It remains the same. So it's more or less like having like the eyeball, this eyelid down here and at the top also wrapping around a ball-like structure, which is for the eye itself. But the eyeball itself is not really completely spherical, but just to have a close approximation to this, you can actually use a sphere to kind of get a close enough silhouette to how the eyelid wraps around the eye. So that being said, let me see, there's another reference image here. This is another reference image. You can see how the eye kind of wraps around the bag, more like in a circular motion, or rather rounded motion around here and around here also. So if you want to kind of do this properly, start with the eye as a beginner. You can actually kind of bring in a sphere that kind of helps you as a guide to kind of wrap the eyelid around it. So that will actually help. So let's kind of bring that in. So I'll bring in like a let me just append. Let's append this sphere in here, something like this. Select that sphere. Yeah, that's fine. Maybe I'll just take it down a bit more. So around here should be fine. Probably around the center of this. Okay, so this will actually this will actually help as a guide, kind of block things in. So I think for this I'm going to do a dynamesh. Okay, I'm going to do a dynamesh for this. I'm going to dynamesh this cube at the back. So we have enough topology to kind of block concept things in. Let's see. Okay, let's try. Let's see what this gives us. That's way too much. Don't really need that much. Let's try 20 in there. Okay. Probably you need a bit more than that. Probably something around 80. Yeah, somewhere around here should be fine. Somewhere around 80 should be fine. Okay, so then I'm going to tell you, I'm going to use the clay builder brush, and just kind of have something that goes, no, let me just do this systematically. So I want to have something that goes across like this, something that goes across like this. Seem to be having some weirdness in here. Let me smooth this out. Let me take down the intensity of this smooth. Okay, something like this to start with. The idea is just to keep working on it, and then as you go, you just keep refining it. Yeah, somewhere around there should be fine. You can see you have to also make sure the transition in there is not like something like this. That will just feel weird. So you want to have a better transition around there also. So I'm just kind of smooth this to blend this back down. Okay. So I've added more subdivision level there by doing a dyna machine there. Then I'll do the same for the bottom part also. So with the same clay builder brush, I'll just build something in that motion also. You have to keep account of this, keep account of the transition in there, and how circular and how rounded it is. Because this kind of help you do things a bit faster, but not strailing off the not strailing off the general silhouette of the eye you're trying to recreate. Something like so. Probably even all the way here like so. And then connect this down here slightly like so. Probably we need more of this around here. Smooth this back down. If you're having this weirdness in, oh, I'm supposed to, let me just fix this quickly. I'm supposed to turn off back turn off turn off all the max back facing for this. So let me just go in here. Should be around brush auto maxing. Yes, back face maxing. So this should be fine now. So we should be fine now. Okay, so we have something close enough now. Let me just see if we can build this up around here even more. Yeah, something like this should be fine. So the best thing to do is to check it from the side view. Kind of check it from the side view just to make sure everything is in place. And now you can start making some corrections in there. Like for example, also check from the side view and also check from the top view like so. You can see the transition in there, which is exactly what we want. Then with the move tool now, you can actually kind of move things in place a bit more. I'll do the same for the lower parts. You can also start moving things in place just to get that rounded circular motion around it. Something like this should be fine. Probably even smooth this out a bit more up here also. Okay, so there's something I need to show you guys also. Let me just look for it. Okay, we're still on the right track. That's fine. So now that we have this in here now, we can start fixing some things up here. Like for example, trying to get, I probably will need more space in here. Let me see if I can select this guy and then push this down a bit more, just to have more just to have more space in there. Probably do the same, do likewise also in here. Okay, now just smooth all of this back down. Seem to be having some holes in here. Let me see if I can just close. Let me just try to close. Though those creating those holes is not extremely important right now, but let's try and close that hole. Modify topology. Okay. Close hole. Close hole. I didn't seem to fix anything though. Okay. Let's just carry on. So now I'm just going to try and recreate what we have in here. Because when creating the eyes, there's also like a transitional eye bag around here. So to kind of replicate that, just exactly what you see around here, like so. Just kind of replicate that. Let me push this down just to have a small smoother transition around it. Like something like so. Then we need to kind of start fixing things up here. Like pushing this one. Let me isolate. Probably isolate something like this. Then I'll be able to modify this easily now. First of all, start by smoothing this bottom part down. So have a smoother transition around it. Yeah, something like this should work just fine. Okay. So now we need to kind of, let's see, yes. We need to kind of create like a more like a thicker line around this. Let me go out of this first. Something like, if I use this, I'll use that standard brush now. Kind of create, no, let me turn off stroke for this. Not this lazy mouse rather. No, that's way too intense. Take this down. Something that goes across like so. It's not too intense now. I'm still going to make that feel a bit more intense, but just kind of have something around here like so. Then we can use our dem standard brush to kind of accentuate that even more. So we should have something like, I'm holding alt. Should have something like this that goes across like so. Something similar also that goes across like so. And the smooth brush, you can just smooth that back down just to blend that back in, so it does not feel too sharp. It should just feel soft around there. And we just need to block this out even more, something like this, and I'll smooth that out. So depending on the kind of character you want to kind of sculpt the eye for, each character has like different facial features, including the eyes. So you always want to kind of stay true to your reference image. So that's why I'm trying as much as possible to kind of stay true to this reference image. So you've noticed how this part is a bit angular. Around here is a bit angular. We can use our dem standard brush to kind of recreate that. Okay, something like this. Then in here also, we need to dig this in. something like this. Even this part needs to even have more, a bit more depth. It needs to be a bit more depth in here. So I'm going to kind of block out something like around here, something like this. Probably not the best brush to use right now, so let's use the standard brush, kind of do that. Okay, somewhere around here like so should be fine. We're basically trying to recreate. Now this top part, the angle feels a bit off, so I need to use the move tool to kind of adjust that a bit more. Trying to stay true to the reference as much as possible. But at least you get the general feel of this being an eye is already there. General silhouette of this being an eye is already there. And that's like the most important thing right now we're kind of actually going in for. Okay. So let me even smooth this in a bit more. Smooth this out. Then while I'm here, I can just isolate this. So now I can actually kind of create more depth in here. A bit more hollow depth in here. So the dem standard brush. Can dig in something like so. No, that's way too much. Something like this. That just wraps around the eye, just to make the eyeball a bit more visible. So I'm holding Alt now with the clay brush. I'm holding Alt and I'll just dig into this even more. Just to have more depth in there, and I'll just smooth that out. Okay. Something like this now. Though this particular part might seem too thick though. Though based on the reference, it's actually thick, but it feels too thick though. So let's just use the move brush to kind of move this down a bit closer to the eye, but keeping in mind that rounded circular motion is already in there. You can see how it's distorted in here, so let's kind of fix that. Probably even do this from this top view. And you actually want to collapse these parts even more. It should be like something like this. It should go in even more. It should go in even more. Same with this other side. Something like this. So it kind of wraps around the eye. Okay. Then we also have like a depth. Let me kind of show you guys an example. So you don't feel like I'm showing off what's already in there. You also need to keep in mind, based on the ethnicity, the eye shape will be different. Most specifically, that of Asians. You can see how that of Asians feels much different than it is right now from our sculpt. Though we're still going to get, I think we have one Asian eye in here from this reference we're actually working with. Not so much. Actually, there isn't any. But no worries, no worries. The general shape of the eye still feels the same. Just slighter difference compared to the just slighter difference in regards to ethnicity. So let me kind of use this as an example now. Yeah, this is a good example. You can see how. Let me just kind of get this similar to that same angle of view. So you can see how this one pushes down a bit more. So we need to kind of compensate for it with this also. So with the move brush, let's kind of compensate for it with this also. So we need to push this inwards like so too, just to compensate for that. But like the general feel of the eye now is actually in there. Actually in there now. You can see how it wraps around it. But it completely depends on the eye though. Completely depends on the kind of eye you're creating. But the general silhouette of the eye should be like something like this. Okay. So just to make this feel more interesting, I don't know. I'm actually looking for something in here. Okay, probably this should be a better give us a clear idea. This is not clear enough though. Let's see if we can find another eye ref. Yo, something like, let me zoom in here. Something like something around here. Let me show you guys another reference that should make a better sense. A realistic eye instead. Okay, you can see in here. You can see there's some kind of bump in here. So since I've already blocked out where this depth should be, it is in here like so. I can use the let me use the standard brush again to kind of carve this out, kind of accentuate that a bit more. So you can actually see what's actually going on in there. Though this needs to be a bit smoothed down a bit more. Then we have something like this in there. Okay, yeah, something like this in there. This particular one obviously is too aggressive though. So let me kind of smooth that out. But the general idea and general proportion is actually there. This is like more or less the general shape of an eye. Once you're able to block this in, it gives you a clearer idea on how to go about creating eyes. So all you have to do is just create a few more of these until it helps your brain kind of memorize the general shape of the eye. So for this now, we can actually move to another one, to another reference. Now, if you notice in here, the eye is different in here because we have like one kind of, let me just try to recreate that. You can see like another top eyelid kind of covering it, like more or less like the flesh from the. Let me see if I can find a better reference for. Yeah, okay, let's just work with the ones we're actually using. It should be this one, yes. Let me look for a typical example for that. Something close, yeah, something like this. Something like this. You can see how, if you notice how this this upper eyelid is not too visible in here. You have like a flesh, this flesh from the brow kind of covering it a bit more. So if you're trying to recreate something like that, all you have to do is just to the best way to go about this is to this is going to be an issue for me. I don't know why it's not closing that hole in there. Trying to close up that hole. That hole is just really frustrating my life. It's bugging me. Should probably be a way to even close those holes. Let me try something in here. Okay. To do this the other way. Doesn't seem to do much though. Doesn't seem to do much. I'm just trying to figure out how to close it. Okay, let me just try and close the one and come back. Okay, so I actually fixed that. I found a fix for it. Actually fixed that. Oh, so I used an insert mesh brush, insert IM brush. So I kind of inserted a sphere in there, then went out and then just did a dynamic for this. So that kind of fixes it. So Control W to give that the same poly group, and I can just smooth this out. So that kind of fixes it. Okay. So back to what I was saying. It's kind of create something like this in there now. You can see how this particular eye is slightly different because this part down here is not as broad as it is here in ours. So to kind of use the same one to kind of replicate that. And you can see how the eyeball itself is not so much visible in here. So to create that, I can just push this upwards a bit more. but still keeping the transition in mind. Just making sure that rounded transitional flow is still in there. This part down here needs to kind of come a bit closer like so. Yeah, something like this. And it's not so bogus in here though. So let's see, let's smooth that out by a lot. Smooth that out by a lot. Okay. Same up here. We need to push this out even more. We can do, okay, I'm still on the move brush. Though there's something actually going on in here though, but you can just leave that the way it is. Just focusing mainly on the eye. Just focusing mainly on the eye shape itself, without worrying too much about what is going on up here. So let me just kind of smooth this back out like so. Then you can see how for this particular eye, this end is a bit tighter compared to ours. So let's kind of tighten that up. And it's not so far. Feels a bit sharp. So let me just max out this region like so. And I can just sharpen this up. I invert that selection and just sharpen this up a bit more. Probably even smooth it out a bit more. So it has more of an angle to it, so it's more like tilted like so. Let me just raise this up and tilt this down like so. It's not perfect though, but this should work. It should work. Then we can kind of like holding alt with the dem standard to kind of accentuate that a bit more. Okay. Yeah, something more or less around this nature. Now we need this something like so. Okay. Then something around all the way like so. And I'll use smooth brush, just smooth this back down. I don't want it to be that too intense. Okay. So somewhere around here like so. Then to create this kind of eye bag, this kind of folding in here, all we have to do is just to use the dem standard brush. So using the dem standard brush, you can just kind of carve out, kind of create something like this where that fold should be. Then all we have to do is kind of use the max lasso to, it's like a general way I like to do. I would like to do it. Yeah, someone might have a different method of actually doing this, but this is how I like to do it. Then all we have to do now is just to use the clay builder brush, or even the move, or even the move brush, or even the move brush, if you please, if you want, and just kind of. Okay, let me kind of have. Let me undo this. Let me have a more sharper transition. Yes. So I'm not blowing out that max. Just going to have a sharper transition around there. You have something around here also. And just blow this. I'm not trying to recreate something close enough to what we have in the reference image. Okay. Probably even more in here. But keeping in mind that transition, very important. If you notice now we have the kind of depth in here, so I'm going to show you guys. Okay, let me just do it before I show you guys. So I'm using the dem standard brush now, kind of add that depth in here, like an hollow part in there, and I'll just smooth that out. Okay, should be like something like so. Let me show you guys what I'm actually doing now. There's actually a reference image for that too. Yeah, this is a perfect reference image for it. So you can see how this envelopes around it. So we still need to even make some more adjustment to it. You can see this should actually come out even more. That's why you need to that's why it's very important to check things from other views, just to get it to work as accurately as you possibly can. So I can use this brush to just fill up this part a bit more. I want to kind of follow that transitional flow to it too. And smooth this out. So you have something more or less like so. Because this particular convex is actually resting on the eyelid. But it completely depends on the reference image you're working with also. Completely depends on the reference image you're working with. So that's why you always have to stay true to your reference image. If you go back in here, you're actually working on creating this eye, this one in here. So now that we have something in here now, you can actually use the clay standard brush rather to kind of create that envelope. That's like kind of more of like an envelope around there, something like so. Then use the dem standard brush to add more depth in there. Okay, something like this now should work. So I'm sure you kind of get the general idea already of this. Maybe even push this down to create some more space. But you get the general idea and the general movement to this, so so that you have a more natural result to it. Maybe even use the standard brush, kind of add some kind of thickness around there and smooth that out. Same also for the top, something like this. Yeah, something like this should work. So you kind of check this from, always make sure you check this from other views also, just to make sure everything is working correctly before moving on. But you get the general idea. So this is one side. So you can see how I changed this eye that was looking like this to this one in here. So while we're still here, you can also, it's more or less like creating, from a male. This eye looks more familiar with a male character. This eye looks more familiar with a male character, whereas this one looks more familiar with a female character because of that roundedness and tenderness you have to it. There's not so much of a sharp structural flow to it, unlike this one that has more sharp structural flow to it, especially for this top part here. Especially for this, you can see sharp angles here. You can actually see sharp angles in here. So that's one thing to actually take account while creating a male or a female character. So this one actually looks more of a younger male because you can actually see the eye bag around here. The eye bag is not so prominent in here. This part is more or less like smoothed out even more. A older male has more. This is an older male. You can see this pronounced eye bag around here. It's a bit more pronounced. So that'll give a clear idea of who is male, who is that should give a clear idea of age difference rather. This one is much particular one is much older. I can see the eye bag around here also. So there's one more thing I also need to kind of show you guys in here. Let me just see if I can. Let's see if I can find. Yeah, this is a good reference for it. You can see how the eye itself is kind of bulging out around here. You can see how the eye is already bulging out around here, the eyeball itself. So let's kind of recreate that. So selecting this eyeball instead, I'm going to go to the lasso, the maxing tool, and I'm going to use the perfect circle. So I'll just max out somewhere around something like this should be fine. Like so. I'll invert that selection, blow it out a bit more. Then I can use let me kind of erase this at the back. I don't want this to affect the back. So I can now use the move to this and move gizmo and then just maybe extend this out like so. Should be looking somewhat like so. Okay, maybe even use the clay builder brush. And kind of get this an angle like so, and use the clay builder brush to build on that a bit more and smooth that back down like so. So you should be having something like this. But this is just way, this is out, this is out way too much though. So let me kind of smooth this back down even more. I'm not trying to create something extremely accurate, but just to get a clear idea. So now I'm seeing issues in here. You can see this part is not closer to the eye itself, to the eyeball itself. So with the move brush, I'll need to let me kind of okay, yes, I'll need to let me get a good angle on this. You can see how from this top part is off. That top part is way off because you need to push this guy downwards a bit more. Just to have a more rounded transition around it. You see why it's very important to kind of check this on all views. Check this on all views, very important. The shape itself is not perfect because it wasn't Dynamatch for this, but the general silhouette of it is actually what we actually gunning for. So and we have that already. Maybe while I'm here, I can even accentuate this part a bit more, something like so. Okay. Then even use the clay builder brush to add this bump in here. So yeah, something like this. This should make it feel more believable. Alright. You can see something like this. Okay. So that's fine. So it's more or less like the general approach to creating most of this. No, this this is mouth instead. It's more or less the general approach to creating most of this eye in here. So let's say we want to kind of convert this eye to someone a bit more older. Maybe someone like this guy in here. Let's look for someone a bit older. Yeah, this one has a more interesting look to it. Though it's at the other side, but we can easily flip this image. So flipping this image now, so this thing is so this particular part faces the other side. So we have something like this. So once we have something like this now, can we make this feel more interesting? Let's kind of recreate this now. You can see how this particular bag in here is kind of covering most of the eye. Not most of the eye though, but it's down a bit more. So we can actually max out. No, not this max. You can use the lasso. You can use the lasso max for this. So though the angle feels a bit off though, just way too down. But let's try and let's try and replicate that. So first of all, I need to kind of blend this back down. I should go back in a bit more. So I'm just going to use the move brush. This part seems fine. This other part just needs a transition backwards a bit more. So something like this should be fine. Okay, I'll just smooth that out. You can see the arc around it. So let's kind of create that arc around it. Do we already have something similar in there, but let's try to make it feel more, to have more of a resemblance to this. So I'll just do something like so. Okay. Okay, that seems to be close enough. Probably we need to even push this down like so. Okay, that's fine. And now you can see how this part of the upper eyelid extends all the way to the back a bit more. So though this one is still in there though, but it just goes inward. So we'll just try to recreate that, something like this. Then we can extend this out a bit more with the standard brush. I'm just going to extend this out like so. So it feels more like something like this. Okay, that's fine. And this one goes inwards. I'll need to place the same standard brush and kind of like in like so. Yeah, that seems fine. From a distance, that seems fine. So what I have to do is just to keep working on this. So with the standard brush, I can just carve more like making a sharp line around this, just to make it feel more pronounced. Yeah, this part, okay, this particular part kind of comes closer, is a bit closer to this. So I'm going to use the clay builder brush and just try to have this somewhere around there, smooth this out. Use the standard brush and then do something like so and flatten this out. So I'm holding alt with the standard brush now just to flatten this out. Yeah, something like that. Something like that should be fine. Probably frame the same transition all the way to the end. Okay. Maybe we can even add that curviness to it. Probably push this, no, move brush, push this up. I don't need to be too much though. Though this is because this is like an older mill, it needs to feel a bit more saggy. So trying to create that sagginess around it. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So now we can start adding more interesting details to it, like for instance up here. So just kind of continuing this on. Then this is where it gets a bit interesting because of the folds and wrinkles around these eyes. So you can start blocking this out here. No, that's way too much. Something like this. Or we more or less can also use the stem standard brush to mark out those regions before fleshing it out. Okay. Yeah, now it's beginning to get more interesting. Okay. Maybe we can make the upper eyelid a bit more closer to the eye itself, a bit more thinner. Probably even push it down closer, like so. So it feels a bit more thinner in that region. Probably won't do the same for this part also. Okay. Then use its them standard brush to mark out this region before adding some fleshiness to it. And this one feels way too intense. Yeah, let's just fill that up. something like so. Then this we need to have some kind of indentation around here. So with them standard brush, I can just dig something like so. Okay, now that is revealing the. Oh, that's fine. We just need to push this out. Okay, that's fine. So I'm just going to mark out those regions that need something like so. Okay. I'm not trying to be extremely perfect in here though. Just try to block out where those fold should be. Then I'll just use the probably standard brush or clay brush to kind of fill that up. Now just smooth some of this down. I'll actually make this part more pronounced. This eye bag here a bit more pronounced. Okay. Yeah, something like this should be fine. I'm not really going for perfection in here. Just trying to get something that looks to a wrinkled skin of an older male. Yeah, something and something around here should be just fine. Okay. So we kind of transition from creating a much younger eye to a much older eye using the same mesh without having to recreate it from scratch again. So and I like that and I like that's like the general idea behind creating a realistic eye. Though the same method still applies to creating a stylized eye too, but not completely though. Depending on the kind of style you're going for the stylized character. But the general workflow or ideologies or methodology is still the same to give you a more better, or rather, and a more appealing result to it.